Hi, I'm Rita, and I asked my friend Tracy Molitors to be here with me. She works with me in Rita and Language, and together we create connecting language and art with language arts products at Rita and Language. And so Tracy and I have been talking about really digging into this art piece. Why should we add art to language arts?
The first thing I always want to say to people is adding art to your language arts is not about being an artist. It's not about even being comfortable with art. It really brings your whole brain into your language arts process if you can add art.
And we always want to be multi-sensory, multi-modality in our learning, and we're all about that. But it's so easy to think, okay, we do our language arts and then we do our art. Right? And I have this tendency to always think, well, I could see how I bring art into history.
Right.
But bringing art into language arts took a little more of a challenge for me, especially because I don't like to draw.
Right. But the truth is, you don't like to draw, but there are a lot of people who have various levels of discomfort or resistance with words. And art can become a doorway into those words.
Right. And for me, I was more comfortable with words. So, and in homeschool, because I wasn't comfortable as an artist, I definitely hired you to work with my kids with art, and then we would work together on how to combine what we were doing in other areas in homeschool with that art. Find someone to help you be comfortable.
There are many compelling reasons to try and pull more art into your language arts, and it will pay back your efforts.
Yeah, and for one thing, I didn't want my kids to grow up like me saying, I can't draw, I can't draw. That was part of my goal, is I really wanted them to have the confidence that I did not have. So
there's a lot of expression you can do in drawing and a lot of thought you can bring to drawing that has nothing to do with how good you are at it.
Yes, and you keep telling me that, and it's hard for me to do. So what about someone like me who's afraid?
Well, you are a perfect subject.
Yeah.
Because I got a couple answers for that one too. At Rita and Language, we are always talking about bits and pieces of writing. And what I would encourage are bits and pieces of drawing, bits and pieces of art as well. Take our Post-it notes ideas and use that with your drawing efforts in language arts. So don't try to draw big. Drawing big can be very intimidating. The first time I ever I had painted it with watercolor for years, and I painted on watercolor paper. And the first time I ever transferred that to a canvas, the canvas was huge compared to what I was working in, and I was shocked at how intimidating that was to go big.
Right, and the first time you said draw on a Post-it, I went crazy because I thought, oh my gosh, I can draw on a little square.
Absolutely.
What I do not want to draw on a big piece of paper when you're intimidated. And it just was the first time I made that connection that I know that it helps kids who are intimidated with writing to write on small pieces of paper and not on big pieces. But I hadn't made that connection that I do the exact same thing with art. And when we created our cartooning characters, we created kind of that circle in the middle, in part because I was standing there saying, I don't want to fill that whole page. I don't want to fill that whole page. That someone like me will see that and they'll go, I don't want to do that whole page.
I mean, if you have somebody who's totally resistant to that, use these tiny little Post-it notes. That's itty bitty. That's not so scary. But I would encourage you, if you can do it, get them to write on the more standard size. Get them to draw on the more standard size Post-it note. Just because as we talk some more and we talk about adding some details to it, they won't be as frustrated. If they're drawing on paper this big, they're going to actually make a drawing about that big. So if they're drawing on their paper this big, they're going to make an itty bitty drawing in the middle of this. And that can get frustrating later on as you're trying to add more details to it too. So try and get them to draw on one of these.
Well, all I can draw is a stick figure.
Right, and I love stick figures. And that's my second answer for what about people like you who resist drawing or who are afraid of it, is use stick figures. Stick figures are fabulous. They're so expressive. They're great little stereotypes of male and female, adult and children characters, or stick figure dogs or horses or whatever you want. They're just great, and they're just lines.
Okay, so Tracy, sum it up for us. What did we learn today?
Okay, so try and do as much art in your language arts as you can. It will increase the depth of your learning. If you don't have ideas about how to do that, we're here. We have lots of them. So go visit our website at rootedinlanguage.com. The second thing is, if you're afraid of it, there's a couple approaches. One is bits and pieces of art. So have your kids draw on Post-it notes. Less intimidating.
Or this size, even better.
And encourage stick figures. Love stick figures. You can express a lot that way. She smiles.
I'm recording.
She's such a good director.
Are you recording?
Ah.
Okay.
Am I asking questions?
No. We constantly in language, in rooted, what do we do?
Rooted in
Start that
language.
again.
What were we
Where are we
saying?
starting?
Okay. Okay, so Tracy, sum it up. What's our takeaway?
Okay, our takeaway is try
Let me
everything.
redo that. She made a funny face.